Welcome back to the Moll Anderson Show. Well, he's the best-selling author of What Is Your What? And he's America's reinvention expert who's taught thousands how to nichetize by identifying and monetizing their what. That is the one thing they're born to do. Well, let's find out now how to nichetize with Steve Olsher. Hey, Steve.
Hey, how are you?
I am great. Okay, I got to tell you, we're all loving nichetize. We love that word. It's so much fun to say.
And I have to apologize because I've been nichitizing on the road, so you're catching me here in travel, but hopefully you'll be able to hear me okay.
I can hear you. Hear you. Well, okay, this is such a cool thing. You believe there's only one thing that prevents someone from living a life of happiness, fulfillment, and purpose. What is that one thing?
Well, it really all boils down to becoming very clear on what your what is. And that's the question that you have to be able to answer, which is, what is your what? What are the gifts that you have that are unique to you, that are in your DNA, that are in your blueprint, the vehicle that you'll use to share those gifts with the world, and the people that you're most compelled to serve?
Okay, well, you also state there's 3 simple steps that they can take to discovering what their what is. So
there are.
How do you find that? I mean, because, it sounds easy, but, people get confused.
Absolutely. And I should certainly clarify that, this is something that I've been struggling with for decades. And in Authorland, we often say that we write the book that we most need. So, I mean, clearly this is something that hits very close to home for me. And having worked with thousands of people now over the years, I can tell you that the process works. But you really got to get started in 3 specific ways. And that's number 1, you got to figure out how to grant yourself that time and permission to really say, okay, there is something that I was put here to do. And it's okay for me to slow down and stop moving and grooving and, just I don't know, do some yoga or meditate or take a walk in the park, but really grant yourself that time and permission to say that, yeah, there is something larger for me, and it's my duty, it's my obligation, it's my responsibility to really do everything that I can to figure out what that is.
Well, what if you're like a master of all, or jack of all trades, I should say, and not a master of all?
Well, here's what I believe, and I believe that that's just really, it falls into then the second step of the process here in terms of how to discover what your what is, which is letting go of denial. And so for those who really do believe that they are a jack of all trades and a master of none, to me that really is a statement of denial. And
really?
We all have denial in our own ways, where we deny ourselves the gift of who we truly are by saying we don't have the time, we don't have the money, we don't have the knowledge. People won't approve, I just don't have that expertise. I don't see how I can make, a living from that, et cetera, et cetera. And when you take a look at, exactly what you're talking about in terms of trying to do many different things and really not honing in on what that one amazing thing is that you're really born to do, it's, in my opinion, because you just haven't found what it is that truly puts fire in your soul.
Right. I got so many women right now who are listening, and they're saying, I want to know what my what is, but I know my what right now is I've got a screaming baby on one hip, and I've got one I've got to pick up in kindergarten, and my husband's coming home, and I don't know what I'm cooking for dinner, and I want to be so much more, but I'm just buried, buried in real life. What do you say, when you see that face and she's just stuck? She feels stuck. What do you say to her?
Well, number 1, I say that this is just a temporary phase. And reality is that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing right now. And truly, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And so quit fighting it. Dig in, do it as best you can, and understand that when the time is right, perhaps when the kids are in school, perhaps when you find yourself in a position to really move forward with strategic abandon, that you'll make the time, you'll make the effort, and it will be the right time for you to truly understand what your what is and begin sharing that gift with the world. But, there's no bigger gift that you could possibly give to this world than to raise amazing children. So, don't ever downplay the importance of that role.
Well, so is this also about embracing the moment?
Well, there's no doubt it's about embracing the moment, but it's clearly more about, in my opinion, it's more about embracing the natural gifts that you have been given and understanding those that you're most compelled to serve. So sometimes you have to really go out and experience life and become a mother or work full-time for a decade or whatever it might be until some of this begins to reveal itself. And, you know, I do have a very specific process that I take people through in the book, What Is Your What? But, you know, for a lot of people, and what I always say in my conversations with folks is you really got to be ready for this conversation. And when you're ready, you'll know that it's time.
Right. So when you start to get that feeling, you know, deep inside your soul and you're thinking, I know that there's something I'm meant to do, and you start searching and you're picking up self-help books or picking up your book, then I would think that that's a good sign that you're ready to maybe figure out what it is.
Yeah, you know, I kind of describe it as almost like a nagging, like tugging at your collar type feeling where you wake up in the morning and you say, there's just got to be something more.
Yes.
And when you're having that sort of dialogue, that to me then spells the moment in time where you're ready to begin following the type of process that I've created and the framework that I've created. Or, you know, heck, if it's not my book, it's, you know, somebody's book, right? I mean, at least do something about it, because reality is that you are the solution to someone else's problem, and we are waiting for you to share those gifts.
Well, in your book, What Is What? Discover the one amazing thing you're born to do, you reference the 4 paths. What are they, and how does one identify on which path they're currently on?
So the 4 paths involve, number one, what I call the reinventors. And these are people who go through life doing one thing and then wake up one day and just take a completely different path. They do a full 180. Like, I have a friend who started as a chiropractor and just woke up after about 20 years of being a chiropractor and said, I just can't do this anymore, and really gave in and just stopped denying his God-given gifts, which are to really help people develop deep, meaningful relationships. And today he's known as the Smarter Dating Guy. So, you know, that's a reinventor.
Sure.
The second is what I call a wanderer. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I just mean that, you know, these are people who go through life and never really hone in on what it is that they're truly compelled to do. And, you know, that's not anyone's fault. It's just, you know, in our education system, we don't do a very good job of teaching people how to discover their true gifts. And these aren't exactly the types of conversations that we have around the dinner table. So, you know, in my work, I've really come to figure now that about 98% of the world and change will go through life meeting that definition and be on the path of a wanderer.
So do you think, and I don't mean to interrupt, but you were talking about, you know, talking around the dinner table about this. It sounds to me like it could be really beneficial if this were part of parenting, you know, and we encouraged our children to search and to follow and search for what their passion is at a young age.
And, you know, I will say that that's certainly a great idea, and certainly something that we need to be looking at more of in terms of how do we encourage our children to become very clear on what it is that they're truly compelled to do. And frankly, I think the education process has a lot to do with the problems that we have around this space, because, you know, we're asking 16, 17, 18-year-old children to decide what they want to do for the rest of their lives.
That's so true.
And go away to a 4-year school when, frankly, they have no idea who they are. We got to stop putting our kids from high school directly to college, in my opinion, Moll. I mean, we really need to get them out in the world. You know, you're better off giving your kid $5,000 and a kick in the ass and tell them to go out and figure out, you know, go out in the world and figure out what they enjoy, go volunteer, be an apprentice, join the military, you know, get a job, get out of that restricted circle where you've been living since birth. And then when you figure out what it is that you truly want to do, pursue the education that you need to bring that to fruition. That's not always going to be a 4-year education.
If you're just joining me, I am visiting with Steve Olsher, author of What Is Your What? Now, Steve, aren't you afraid that a lot of them may not even want to go back to school once they, you know, head in another direction? What about internships? I'm really big on internships because I feel like it gives you some real life experience while you're in school.
Yeah, and I love the idea of an internship, but I also know that when you're spending tens of thousands of dollars and investing hundreds of hours into a degree, that the statistics show that 85% of those who graduate with a 4-year degree do not work in their field of study within 5 years of graduation, we've got a serious problem at hand. And reality is that I don't care, if you have that piece of paper or not. The only thing that really, truly matters is the impact that you're having on the lives of others. And that doesn't necessarily require that arbitrary piece of paper, which for most people is meaningless.
Well, it's interesting because we just got involved with the university and started working with an entrepreneurship center because we really believed that you're right in that these kids are forced to make decisions way too fast on what they're going to be for the rest of their lives, because I'm a reinventor myself. I mean, I've done it several times. And I just think that it's so cool when you can encourage kids to figure it out and get firsthand, go out into the field and work with the people that they might dream of being someday and finding out, oh, you know what, that's not what I want to do. Now I go this direction, Yeah.
Yeah, and before the hate mail starts coming in, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not against education. That's not what I'm saying. I'm against the wrong education for the right person.
I understand. I just wanted to make sure that people understood that you're not saying don't get educated. Just you want to see people experience life and then get the correct education that will help them to be whatever it is they're meant to be.
Yeah, and again, that might be a vocational school. I mean, that might be studying with a mentor. That might just be working. I mean, who are you going to hire? Are you going to hire, if you've got a position in your company, Moll, and the question is, here's somebody who's been working in your organization for 4 years. They understand exactly who you are, how you tick, what your objectives are, and a position opens up where it would be either that person or someone who has a college degree, right? I mean, the question, what I'm really asking you to think about is, who would you put in that position? Someone who's just coming straight out of high school, out of college, and has that pedigree, or someone who really understands your organization and is now uniquely qualified to fill that position?
No, I mean, I like to look at it as I would try, me personally, to give the job to the person I feel best would fit into my organization. And it wouldn't have to be a college graduate. That's true, because I didn't even graduate from college. I wish I had, but I didn't let that hold me back. But I certainly wouldn't let that hold me back as far as picking someone who has, a degree or doesn't have a degree. So I'd like to think I'd stay open and pick the best person for the job.
Yeah, and look, reality is that you can get a degree at any point of your life if you decide that that's something that you need to do. There's a wonderful book called Life is Beautiful about this older black gentleman who didn't even learn to read until he was like 95. So, there's no right or wrong time to pursue the education or to pursue what you need in order to really have massive impact on both those who share this lifetime with you and also those of lifetimes to come. We just got to stop defining and dictating when that time really is.
Can you tell us a little bit about the reinvention workshop that you do?
So the reinvention workshop is it's a live event, although you can also take the course online at the reinventionworkshop.com, where I teach people very specifically how to discover, share, and monetize what it is that they are born to do. And our next live event is in San Diego in January. So, come to beautiful San Diego, January 24th and 25th. And I'd love to have you there.
Well, that's a good location.
I figured you'd like that one.
Yes, there's nothing like San Diego to learn anything in life, right?
Exactly.
Well, now, is it true that you give away books for free? And if so, why do you do this? And how do we get this complimentary copy? I think that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can grab a free copy of the book, which, by the way, is officially a New York Times bestseller.
By the way, congratulations. That's not an easy feat.
Thank you for that. So you can grab a free copy of What Is Your What? Discover the one amazing thing you were born to do at whatisyourwhat.com/free. So whatisyourwhat.com/free. And I give the book away because I'm on a mission to help 1 million people discover, share, and monetize what they're born to do. Because I know that if you pursue what that gift is for you and affect the people that you're most compelled to serve, as I know you can, then ultimately you're going to make this world a better place for me, for you, for my children, for your children, and for generations to come. And I truly believe that we have entered into what I call the empowerment economy, and it's going to be, and it's all about empowering others through the unique gifts that you possess.
Well, I love what you're doing. And, I brought up the parent part, because it's interesting. I did reinvent myself many times, but as a small child, I would do crazy things that if my parents maybe had noticed might have pushed me or had discussions about things. I mean, I was rearranging furniture at 6 years old. And creating rooms within rooms. It was the craziest thing, and slip covering Barbie couches and doing really not normal things, I think, for a 6-year-old, but yet nobody said, "Wow, you're really good at this. You should be an interior designer." And one day I was sitting in Home Depot, and I think you would appreciate the story, and I was doing a book signing, and these parents were walking, and there were 2 little girls, and I saw this little girl stop and look at this table and chairs, and there was an arrangement on the center, and there was a candle kind of off to the side, and I watched her, and she couldn't have been more than 7, adjust the flowers and set all the chairs a certain way and move the candles. And I watched her, and I watched the parents not pay attention. And when they came around the other way, and I had to say something. I said, "Look,
Sure.
I know you don't know me from Adam." I said, "But I just watched your daughter do something that you may want to encourage or see if she has a passion for this, because I used to do that." And they looked at me like I was crazy. I think I thought they were going to say, "Just stay out of our lives," So.
Yeah, and honestly, that's a wonderful thing to do, and I applaud you for doing it, because often we can miss what's most obvious, both in our lives and, unfortunately, in the lives of those closest to us. So I think what you did was, really amazing.
Well, it was just one of those moments that I wish somebody had done it for me. So I get that, and I love what you're saying, and I think that anytime you can encourage people to find their passion, it's so helpful. And, but what about people too? And I want you to speak to the people right now that can't quit their day job, and they've got bills to pay and mouths to feed. You don't really expect them to give up their paycheck and begin immediate pursuit. What would you suggest? How would they handle this once they have gotten this idea in their mind and in their gut?
Yeah, and first and foremost, let me just say that I really am. I hate the term passion.
Oh, sorry.
No, don't
I'm
be
a passionate person. It comes out of my mouth.
No. Don't be sorry. I just hate it because too often we've been brainwashed into believing that if we do what we love, the money will follow. Right. That's been the expression now for a decade. And just because you simply know what your passion is, what it is that you're truly focused on in terms of how you're wired to excel, it doesn't mean that you can, as we're discussing now, quit your day job and move forward in a meaningful way, because there's more to the equation. And I think we've just really misled people to believe that if you just find what your passion is, then amazing things will happen, but there's more to the equation. And so, look, what I really think needs to happen here is folks just have to be willing to be patient and enter into the transition where ultimately, you can't quit that day job, right? You got mouths to feed, you got bills to pay. Right. And if you quit that day job, that's just going to be shooting yourself in the foot, because the transition is like a recipe mixture where right now 100% of your income is derived from what you don't really want to be doing, and the zero part is. And so as you move forward and that first dollar comes from what it is that you're truly compelled to do, then that recipe mixture shifts and eventually becomes 10%, 90%, 80-20, 70-30, et cetera. And you'll know when you can cut that rope, when you can officially move forward without having that day job in hand. But, if you wake up tomorrow and become clear that you're born to be a neurosurgeon, that's a 16-year transition before someone's going to hand you a scalpel.
For sure.
So, you just got to be patient and, again, grant yourself that time and grant yourself the permission to say, however long it takes for me to make this into a full-time endeavor is however long it's meant to take.
Exactly. Well, Steve, thank you so much for sharing all of these wonderful thoughts with my listeners. And you can get a free copy of Steve Olsher's book, What Is Your What? Just go to register at whatisyourwhat.com/free. And thank you so much, Steve.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. And please, just keep doing the amazing work that you're doing, because clearly you have a gift to share and are sharing it in what I call a manner of strategic abandon. So I applaud you for that.
Well, thank you, Stephen. Good luck with that $1 million. You go get them.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
Take care.